You're here.
Hi, Lori.
Hi. Okay, here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 9 of Stuttering Demystified. This is your host, Lori Melnitsky, speech pathologist, stuttering specialist, and a person who happens to stutter also. Today, I am pleased to have on a colleague of mine, Alina Rifkin, and she runs Clearversation Speech and Stuttering Therapy in Boca Raton, Florida. And I'm so happy to have her on with me. She's also a specialist in stuttering. So, Alina, welcome.
Hi, Lori. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad. And I would just like, Alina and I, so you all know, are both speech pathologists who stutter also. So we just wanted to kind of share some of our journey and experiences with you. So before we start, can you just tell me a little something about you and how you got interested in being a speech pathologist?
Absolutely. So, my journey started when I was in college, and I was thinking, who should I be? What should I do? And I always had in the back of my head this fear of, becoming anything because I stuttered. And throughout my teen years, it has always affected me in a negative way in terms of socializing with others, and I always felt like I didn't belong. So all the years that I've gone to speech therapy, I kind of wish that I would find a speech therapist who would understand me and understand what stuttering is, because even though they were trying to help me and provide me all the fluency tools and everything like that, I kind of felt like they didn't understand me on a personal level. And that's when it kind of hit me in college that maybe I should become that speech language pathologist that understands their clients on a whole different level, and that not only empathizes, but not only sympathizes but empathizes as well. And that's where my journey kind of began. And I kind of saw myself doing this for the rest of my life. I've always enjoyed working with children, and I work with adults as well now, but I kind of fell like it kind of fell into my lap, and it was perfect. It was the perfect career for me.
That's great. And as we all know, it's very hard. And, as I've shared, it didn't come that easy for me because I worked as an accountant. So I just think it took me like 5 years to kind of
Mhm.
figure out what I really wanted. So I just think it's so wonderful that you knew. Did you know, did you feel that your stuttering impacted you in any manner?
I mean, it impacted me a lot, in a positive way as well as in a negative way, of course, because in a positive light, I would say that it made me a lot stronger. It made me realize that even though I stutter, I could still be anything that I want to be, including a speech language pathologist, despite a lot of people, trying to tell me, no, you shouldn't be that, you shouldn't do that, because you stutter, how are you going to teach others if you stutter yourself? So I've been down that road, as I'm sure you have too. And but it has impacted me in a negative way, I would say, only towards socializing with others, and I always felt like I was inadequate compared to others, and always wished in the back of my head that I spoke like everyone else, but I couldn't. So I
That's
mean,
like interesting. So do you think it impacted you socially because of others, or do you think it impacted you socially because of the way you were viewing stuttering in the outside world?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, we're kind of our own worst enemy in a way, and we judge ourselves a lot more, and a lot more harshly. So I think it was more. in my head, I was thinking, well, I'm not good enough, and why would anybody want to socialize with me because I stutter, and I can't even finish a sentence, or I can't even start a sentence sometimes because I have blocks. So I mean, it was more obviously in my head, as I found out later on in life.
That's interesting. What do you think was if there was a defining moment when you just finally said like enough? I mean, I'm going to say what I want. I know my words matter.
I mean, I think as the years went by, I just I started to realize that I'm a lot more than my stuttering, and it doesn't define me in any way. And if it takes me a little longer to say something, it's okay. And I um, I remember one of my speech therapists back in the day actually mentioned that, Alina, it's not your fault. This is not your fault. It's not something you can control. So you cannot keep blaming yourself for it. You cannot keep comparing yourself to others. It's neurological and it's involuntary. And that kind of like it stuck with me. I don't know. It just kind of and after that I realized, you know what, it's true. And I I cannot continue to beat myself up over it because it's not something that I'm always able to control, even though we learn to over time.
Right, and it is interesting because I think if there were any speech pathologists listening, I think like we're sort of programmed to think that if everybody just uses any kind of speech strategies that they're just gonna learn to stop stuttering or control it. And I think we both know it's so much more than that. It's so interesting that you shared that because I think that's the message we want our clients knowing, that they're not
Right.
responsible. Parents are not responsible for
Absolutely.
their stuttering. So I just have to ask you, because I know you're a wife and a mom also. Were you ever nervous about your kids if they would stutter also?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I actually remember learning in, undergrad and grad school, that there is a huge genetic component to it. And I was always thinking, oh my God, I can pass this on, and my son can get it, and my daughter, and it would have, affect them as much as it had me, especially growing up, because kids can be, very cruel, as we know. And until we kind of all grow up and mature and understand things, it's very difficult. So yeah, I mean, I've had that fear for a while. So have you also?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had the fear. I mean, my father stuttered, so I knew. And then, of course, my older daughter started stuttering unexpectedly. She
Hmm.
eventually stopped. And it's, hard to know if it was developmental or not. But I remember my husband saying to me, because of course, when it's your own kids, you get even more nervous. And I remember
Yes,
him saying to me, Lori, you just have to relax. You made it. You became a strong person. Whatever happens, happens. As parents, we just have to encourage her. So, yeah, I mean, we never know what the future brings. And stuttering, even though we didn't love it, it made us who we are in some ways.
that's true. That's true. It
And,
built character for sure.
right. It did. So, what
Yeah.
do you like? What advice would you give to other people who stutter, or even parents of kids who stutter?
I mean, my biggest advice would be to never allow your child to fall victim to it by any means. And like you said, always, encourage your child, encourage yourself, that and remember that even though you stutter, it's a speech impediment. but it doesn't prevent you from doing anything and everything you want to do. And I mean, we can even take a look at our president as an example. I mean, he's come a very, very long way. You know, I mean, he stuttered his whole life, and I read his book about his childhood, and his parents were always behind him 100% and always pushed him to be the best he could be despite it all. So, the biggest advice I can give is get out there, make phone calls, do not avoid anything, just live and do the best you can. And you might even surprise yourself at how much you can accomplish.
I so love this, and I love the, inspiration, because I think nobody knows what it's like to stutter, unless it's someone who stutters.
Yeah.
I would love if you can come back, because, Alina and I both took an intensive stuttering program.
Yes.
I think it would be so great for the, high schoolers and college students and adults to kind of hear the impact that it had on our life. But before we end, can you just tell everybody your contact information and where they can reach you?
Absolutely. I'm located in South Florida. My number is 718-644-5685, or I can be reached via email, fluency@clearversation.com. Either way is good. If you have any questions or anything, please reach out to either myself or to Lori. There's help out there. We know exactly what it feels like. So we're there for you in every way.
Thank you so much for coming on and inspiring others. It really means a lot.
My pleasure, of course. I appreciate you having me on.
Okay, and we will speak soon.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Alina.
And thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.